All right, Padres CEO Erik Greupner, he spoke to the media today. No chairman was alongside him because there is really not a chairman right now. John Seidler is not the chairman yet. There's the whole trustee of the Seidler Trust thing that has to happen, and so we're waiting for that. And then Erik Greupner, he's just the interim chairman. He was doing Peter a favor as a longtime business partner after he obviously passes away, steps in as the interim chairman, and it was always not going to be Erik Greupner long term. So it didn't make sense for him to speak today in front of the media. So Erik Greupner did the talking, talked about payroll, TV deal situation. Don Orsillo, he got an extension. So I'll hit on that here in a little bit. But really, my overall thoughts on what Erik Greupner said today was just actions speak louder than words. You can say this stuff because there was some stuff that, I don't know, pissed me off. Is that the right word? Because the Padres are a contending team. And yes, you can make a strong argument that they're still trying to win. They're fielding a competitive team. Yes. But I think San Diego deserves more than a competitive team. We deserve a World Series contending roster. Is it there right now? You can make the case that it is after the addition of Nick Pivetta and then some of the guys in the lineup that they have, and then the great bullpen on paper that they have, and then other guys in the rotation that they have. But still, for me, it's a question mark with the catching position. You're not replacing Jerks and Profar's production in left field. There's just question marks still. So the Padres, obviously, they're not going to talk bad about themselves. So, yeah, they're going to make the argument that, yeah, we have that contending team and we're committed to winning and all that. So, yeah. But Erik Greupner today, just some of his comments. Again, I'll get to Don Orsillo here in a little bit. But the Padres, they're close to announcing a TV deal. Thanks to Kevin Acee for writing about some of these comments. I watched earlier today, but I don't want to forget some of the things that were said. But yeah, some Saturday games broadcast over the air on local television, an arrangement that will increase their reach and bring in a small amount of additional revenue. But let's remember, the Padres pretty much have maxed out on the revenue that they can make. And Erik Greupner did, I don't know if he said this directly, like literally, like that was the actual quote, this following thing that I'm going to say. But essentially, like the Padres, whatever they're getting in revenue, they're putting it back into the team. We don't truly know that because we don't see their books. But if you want to believe Erik Greupner with that, then go ahead. Erik, continued to talk about, he did talk about stability in the franchise because he was asked obviously about the ownership situation and did those things, just what has happened this offseason, have an effect on the roster? Has he talked with the team? Which it seems like he did at FanFest a little bit when they were all together. And pretty much the message is like, same thing. We're operating the same. Nothing changes. And what, like, not pissed me off, but it definitely got my attention when he said earlier today, and he said it repeatedly, that, yeah, the goal remains the same. And that's where it comes from, like, actions speak louder than words. Goal remains the same. Yeah, no S. The goal for a team like the Padres, of course, it's to win the World Series. Duh. Yeah, the goal remains the same. But the questions that he was being asked wasn't about what the team's goal was. It was more about like the position of the team and how much of a contender it is, and have things changed with maybe the roster building and all that. I think part of it was like the question was to get to financially, have things changed? But he just kept saying, he said it multiple times, goal remains the same. And it's like, yeah, no crap. Of course the goal remains the same. That's not answering the question. So he did a pretty good job of deflecting today. And obviously he's not going to speak bad about the Padres. He's going to try to make it seem as great as possible. And I'm not saying I'm not acting like this team is the Marlins. I'm still just disappointed with some of the things that have happened or not happened this offseason. That's all. But Greupner says, we feel like both AJ and Mike have been given the resources that they need to put together a playoff caliber and championship caliber team. I know they agree, especially with some of the recent additions that we've made, alluding to Kyle Hart, Nick Pivetta, Jason Hayward, Connor Joe. Uh, there's Elias Diaz, obviously. Gavin Sheets, we'll see. Yuli Gurriel on a minor league deal. He homered off of Michael King on a backfield today. I was joking on Twitter. That's just Michael King making Yuli Gurriel feel good on day one, just being a good teammate. It's essentially day one. It is day one for Yuli, and probably one of the first days Michael King's gotten on the mound to face Padres batters at spring training. So I'm not putting any stock into that. There was talk about payroll. Our payroll has gone up significantly year over year, and we have been pursuing a long-term plan that was set several years ago, and we're continuing to execute against that plan. We're exactly where we had expected to be from a payroll perspective going into this year. That is sufficient from a resource perspective to go out and win a World Series championship. And that's a commitment that we've made for several years now to our fan base, that we would consistently put a team on the field that could compete for the playoffs and win a World Series championship. And I want to stop there because for me, again, it's not about competing for the playoffs. It's about being good enough to be in the playoffs, but really compete for a World Series championship. It's not good enough to just compete for a postseason spot anymore. Like we got to win here. So I wish that wouldn't be said, and it would be focused like on a World Series. But I know that there's steps to this as well. So again, if I'm Erik Greupner, then I'm literally going to be like, yeah, there's steps to this, and step one is make the postseason. Can't win a World Series if you don't make the postseason. So you're going to mention, yeah, postseason caliber, like that's where our eyes are on, and then World Series. He also talked about, there was a line in there today about how essentially, yeah, Petco Park, it's still a fun, great place to go watch a baseball game. And it's like, that's not what I want to hear either. Because yes, Petco Park is great. We all know that's great. Don't say that. I know you're Erik Greupner, so you're going to be selling the Padres, and part of that is Petco Park. And he's probably spent a ton of time upgrading it and making sure it's great for the fan base, and that's appreciated as well. But for me, I don't care where they're playing, to be quite honest right now. I want to win. But there are different types of fans, so I know he has to appeal to others as well. We've said for years that we increase payroll and spending to give our fans in our city an opportunity to do something we've never done before, but that ultimately we knew long-term the sustainability of that payroll was going to be determined by the fan support and the level of revenue we've been able to generate in our market. And now this is like something Peter would never say, was mention smallest media markets in baseball, or he'd mention it, but like in a way, hey, let's not talk about that. Who cares? We're trying to win here. It's not about media market. But Greupner says, we remain one of the smallest media markets in baseball, yet despite that, our fans have been amazing and they've supported this team, and we owe them an incredible debt of gratitude. So that's fine. That wasn't the quote that I was looking for. But part of this that I was listening to earlier today, he did mention, I don't know if Kevin has that quote in here, but he did refer to like being one of the smallest media markets in baseball, but yet our payroll is like top 10th or top third, something of like that in the league. And he was pretty much saying how impressive that is. Maybe that's like hey, be grateful for what you have, Padres fans, because it's a miracle that we have this in this small media market. And not having the TV deal and all that. And okay, I guess, but with the amount of fans that come to games and all that, and I know that there's players that are getting millions of dollars more this year than they were last year in payroll, and that's part of the payroll bump. But us fans, like, there's going to be some fans that don't care about what media market it is. We want to win a World Series, something that hasn't happened in the franchise's history. We're We're at a level right now with our payroll where we're putting everything that we have that we can generate in our market into this team. And for that to be a top, this is the quote, and for that to be a top 10 payroll is pretty amazing considering the size of our market when it comes to the media market. That's just not something I don't think Peter would say. But then he continued, it's really, he was, it was good intentions with it because he said, and I think it's just a testament to how amazing our fans are and the way that they've been showing up and supporting this team. Great. But I know Erik Greupner is not Peter Seidler. There's nobody that's Peter Seidler, but the media market thing is just something that Peter didn't want to talk about, didn't want to hear, because he'd bring up more like, I'm pretty sure he brought it up, that they're the eighth biggest market or eighth biggest city, something like that in the country. He didn't bring up the media market and being a smaller media market. That's something that I noticed. Anything else? Oh, the team not for sale will not be sold, but I kind of forgot about that, to be honest, because that shouldn't be news. It's not like this headline. Maybe the not for sale part, because there have been talks amongst fans like they should sell the team because look at the financial situation they're in. They need Steve Ballmer or someone like that to come in and just have an owner that loves the Padres but has more money. But it's going to be in the Seidler name. I would be surprised if they do sell it. If they do sell it, I feel like that would be years down the road, not right now. Maybe when the Mannies and the Bogarts, they're out of their prime, and they can really see this window through. But yeah, Greupner said the Seidler family has viewed this team as a generational asset. Peter spoke about that. The rest of his family has continued to speak about that. This team is not going to be relocated. The team is not going to be sold. The commitment remains to keep this team in the current ownership that it's in right now and continue to run it the way we've been running it. So again, like, the goal remains the same. Things have not changed. That was the message. Things aren't going to change. That was the message from Erik Greupner. Some fans may be like, great, we're contending. Things aren't going to change. Okay. But then there's some that may be like, oh, things aren't changing. Well, we're signing Connor Joe and we're signing Jason Hayward and we're signing Elias Diaz and we're signing who is the blank Kyle Hart. We're signing those guys and we're losing Jurickson Profar and we're losing Kyle Higashioka. And we didn't bring back Donovan Solano. David Peralta's still out there, probably not bringing him in. We're signing Yuli Gurriel, who's 40, Well, things haven't changed. Well, fans will look at this and be like, well, then if things haven't changed, then why are we not keeping players? Why are we signing, guys that we're hoping will be like this year's Donovan Solano, David Peralta? We're hoping, and not, guys that we have a better sense of who they would be in 2025. Greupner talking about John Seidler. We're incredibly excited to have John step into that position of chairman. He's been part of the ownership group since 2012. I've known him for 13 years. I've spent a lot of time with him at Padres games and in Padres ownership meetings, and he's got a love for San Diego. He's got a love for this franchise, a love for baseball, and he's excited to step into that role and continue what his brother Peter was leading for so many years for the ownership group and that he's a part of, and ultimately deliver that World Series championship to San Diego. I've seen one photo of him in a Padres jersey with, I think, his wife at Padres postseason game from this past season. I don't know really anything about him other than like what I just read there, what he looks like there in that picture. So again, it's more like actions speak louder than words. When John Seidler takes over, what is happening? Will we be able to tell a difference, or will only the people in the building be able to tell a difference? How is he going to just sound? how can he relate to Padres fans? Can he? Um, Erik Greupner, he was prepared for the questions that were going to come today. So I'm not taking too much from these comments. I'm not really surprised by these comments. So yeah. One piece of news, Don Orsillo getting that extension. The Padres want him to be a Padre for the rest of his career, which is awesome. I absolutely love Don, love Mud. I know I'm biased, but best broadcast booth, most entertaining broadcast booth in baseball. When the team is contending and they're fun to watch, they're great as well with the enthusiasm Don has and all that. When there's frustrating things happening, they can be fun as well because you've got Mud that screams something in the booth, being pissed off about something. Um, and when it's the eighth inning of a blowout game, they're still going to be entertaining as well. So, Red Sox fans, I feel like they're going through it. They see Don Orsillo get an extension with the Padres when they're pissed off. They're more pissed off that the Red Sox let Don go or Nesson or whatever than probably Mookie Betts leaving. That's what it seems like. And then they have Rafael Devers not wanting to be DHing and saying that he's the third baseman when they just brought in Alex Bregman and they have Christian Campbell that could be coming up. So that's going to be a very interesting situation there. But yeah, as a Padres fan, super pumped that Don is here and he is going to be here to stay. It seems like it's going to be an extension that is at least through 2030. I believe that's what Kevin wrote in this article. Orsillo's new contract, sources confirmed the deal runs through at least the end of the decade. So that's great. Best extension the Padres have ever made. I think I tweeted best extension of all time. Tatis, yes, the 14 years. Yep. There's, Joe Musgrove. There are extensions that are like, okay, yeah, that was great. But, those guys can get hurt. Don Orsillo, I guess he could lose his voice, but he's there night in, night out. And when I have interacted with him in person, and obviously he has tweeted a lot of my videos out of the clips that I put out there of him and Mud. He's a great human being. And I just love that he is representing San Diego. He loves San Diego. So yeah, that was great news to see this morning pop up on my phone. But yeah, those are my thoughts here today. But one more thing I wanted to add real quick. I just remembered this. Mike Schilt, he was speaking to the media today, and he mentioned that A.J. Preller spoke to Darvish, I think multiple times, asking about Yuli Gurriel and bringing him in and what would he think about that. So that makes me feel better. The video I put out yesterday, obviously, I wasn't very happy with this. I was disappointed. But I did bring up, it would make me feel better if the Padres did talk to Darvish before making this move. And it makes sense that they did. So I'm glad that they did. And that makes me feel a little bit better. Still, possibly having to give over $1 million to a 40-year-old. He could end up performing. And I hope he proves us all wrong. But I still feel like they didn't have to do that.